Hello, my friends and followers, my viewers. This message is truly for everyone, no matter where you live, what religion you follow, or if you don't even know or are not sure or don't think God exists, because this will concern you very much. There's a prophecy given to the entire world that affects us all. It will have an impact on us all. We're all going to be affected by it, and everyone in the world at the same time is going to see and experience the same thing. So this is why I would really love for you to listen to the end of this message and truly let it sink in your heart and you consider it. Part of this message was already given to me and passed on by my grandma to me. She was already foretelling me about this. And you know that I come from the Catholic background. My grandma didn't. My grandma was a Protestant. And she already told me about world events that will come in the future. And she said it was passed on from her mother to her. So when I got to know a little bit further about the message, and I surely didn't know more about it either. And I know it's not being widely spread because I listen to news and get myself informed about different apparition messages, prophecies, and really trying to stay up to date. But I didn't get to know about this message very fast. So I'm wondering how many other people haven't heard about what is actually going to come, not far off, but actually in our lifetime, more than likely at least, in our generation. And how can I tell that for sure? I tell you later in the video. Also, there's been questions always being asked to me, are we living in the end times? And before I knew this information, I could be not for certain. I always said, well, we're living closer to the end times than we were ever before. There's few things that, like before the end time will come, there's things that still have to happen, but we could be. But now I know for certain if we do or not, and I can give you actually a definite answer. So let's start. First of all, I'd like to quote Sister Faustina. And if you don't know, if you don't know Sister Faustina, she's a saint. She had the assignment to let this picture, the Divine Mercy, Lord, maybe you know the picture, have it painted. And there's also a prayer that goes with this. But she had her diary, and God told her to put down her visions and what she's experienced in her diary. So it was a direct order. And in one of her writings, she writes, and Sister Faustina, by the way, lived from 1905 to 1938. She writes, Before I come as a just judge, talking about God, I first open wide the door of my mercy. He who refuses to pass through the door of my mercy must pass through the door of my justice. So I want to talk to you about this door of mercy that will be opening in our lifetime. And therefore, I will talk about an apparition that I just got to know about. And it's not only based my knowledge on this apparition only, because this apparition is not approved yet fully by the church. You can go there as a pilgrim, it's allowed, and the message is allowed to be spread, but it's still under investigation. But other saints have talked about, through the centuries, about this prophecy that will come, the events that will come. But I want to go to Garabandal, that is in Spain, and there was an apparition. Now, maybe some people don't know what an apparition is, especially if you're coming from another faith. So, it's the mother. So we know that we have one God that is beyond and behind everything. So he manifests in three parts. In Christianity, we call it the Trinity. It's the Father and the Son, and then we have the mother aspect, because it's representing the family. Now we know that God is all of it and more, but for us to understand God more, he manifested in these three forms for us to relate better and further. So this mother form, which is also called the Holy Spirit, is regularly coming down to this earth. She did, especially over the last 100 years, to give us messages and warnings and help. And there's different apparitions, like in Fatima, in Lourdes, La Salette, Akita, in the US, I know in Nicaragua, Akita is in Japan. So all over the world, even in Egypt, in Ireland, all over the world, there have been apparitions, and for different reasons and messages. And this apparition happened in between 1961 and 1965. At the same time, the Second Vatican Council was going on, so you just have a little bit of a reference what the time frame is. And Garabandal in Spain is somewhere really far off in the mountains, like there's actually not much. It's a small village, and the mother appeared to 4 children. So, and I'm going to read here a little bit more about this. These reported apparitions have not been approved and not condemned. They're still under investigation. However, the current apostolic administrator celebrates Mass there and allows private pilgrimages. Similar to Fatima, that's another site in Portugal, the appearance of the mother to the young girls was preceded by that of the appearance of Saint Michael, the Archangel, who prepared them to meet Our Lady. There are 4 parts of the message of Garabandal: the worldwide warning, a miracle for all to see, a permanent sign, and finally the consequences mankind will bring upon itself if it does not turn from fear and hatred to trust and to love God and neighbor. Let's get into the warning. The warning: a God-given illumination of conscience for every single individual at the same time. God's examination of our conscience for the sake of truth and for the sake of conversions. Jacinta of Garabandal, so one of the seers, states, the warning is something that is first seen everywhere in the world, and then it transmitted into the interior of our souls. It will last for a very little time, but seem a very long time because of its effects within us. It will be for our good, of the good of our souls, in order to see ourselves, our conscience, the good that we have failed to do and the bad we have done. Then we will fall a great love towards our Heavenly Father and ask forgiveness for all our offenses. The warning is for us to draw closer to Him and to increase in faith. One should prepare for that day, but not await it with fear. God does not want sent things for the sake of fear, but rather with justice and love. He does it for the good of His children, so that they might enjoy eternal happiness and not be lost. The warning will be first external event in the sky, like the collision of 2 comets. Then will come the interior illumination of consciousness. The warning will be a revelation of the state of our soul as it stands before God, an interior revelation of all the good we have done or failed to do, and all the sins we have committed, and the further consequences of those sins. It will be like our particular judgment at the moment of death, but it is a gift from God to all before death and judgment, an opportunity for conversion, grace, and mercy. This illumination of consciousness will draw the good closer to God, and it will warn the wicked that the end of this time is coming. But this is not to be confused with the end of the world. So first I want to explain a little bit and talk about a little bit of it. So it's going to be a sign that it's going to happen to all of us, no matter where you live in the world. You're going to experience this, no matter what religion or no religion you follow. It doesn't matter. All people at the same time will experience this. And I basing my talk here not only about Garabandal and the seeings, but also from other saints that have said different things. And it's been said that time will stop. So how does God do that? I don't know, but it actually said in the Bible, it has happened before, that the sun stood still. I think Gideon in one of the fights, the sun stood still for I think another day or 24 hours, and it wouldn't move. How God did that, I don't know. And that like catastrophes didn't happen, I don't know. But God is the creator, so he can do anything. So basically, it doesn't matter where you are. So if you're in an airplane, the airplane is not gonna like drop to the floor. Or if you're in a car driving, you're not gonna drive off a cliff or against a tree or have an accident. You're not gonna die from it. So God is just gonna stop time basically for about 5 to 15 minutes. And in that period, you're gonna see yourself. If you would die right now, where would you go? You see your life going in front of you, and you're going to see whatever you have done, good and bad, and you have omitted. So that means if Judgment Day will be shown to you where you would go, you will experience something that I know a lot of Christian and other people of other faith do not believe, but I will tell you anyway. So you will experience purgatory. Purgatory is something, and you think, oh, that's such a man-made thing. No, it makes sense. Think about it. If you want to face God and you would go directly to him, but you're so filthy and full of dirt of your sin and not perfection, you're going to actually die from that experience. So to be able to be cleansed of all your sins, all your shortcomings, your ego, everything that you haven't dropped yet, you're going to be cleansed by in the purgatory. It's burning away everything that you have not dropped on this earth. So the message is to drop things here in this lifetime and not wait until after. Purgatory means everything is burned away, and it is hurting, not physically hurting. You're not going to have bruises afterwards all over. It's spiritually hurting internally. You're going to experience that. Or if you were in mortal sin and really bad in sin, you're going to experience hell. And it says that, the people that are living holy lives and are really close to God, they're only going to get a fine tuning of what they still need to go to become holier and closer to God. And the people that are really far off, they're going to experience great turmoil. So to the point of that some people will die from the experience. They're actually going to have a heart attack or die from the horror of it, of experiencing hell. Guys, this is real. This is gonna happen, and you may be laughing at me now, but it doesn't matter. It's still gonna happen, and it's still gonna happen in our lifetime, in our generation. Take this information and truly think about it, and please listen to the end. So there is this warning that you need to prepare yourself already when you have this information. But let's go further and read further about the warnings and about the apparition. Within 12 months after the warning, there will be a miracle for all to see, which will result in a tremendous outpouring of grace and healing, physical, psychological, and spiritual, at the apparition site of Garabandal, Spain. When? Why not just give the exact date? God respects our free will. We can alter when these things will occur by our response or lack of response. If many people respond by conversions, prayer, and penance, then this time will be prolonged to allow more people to convert. At Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on the feast of a martyred saint for the Eucharist, and not the feast of Mary or Jesus, this will occur. In March, April, or May, it will be witnessed by all those present at the apparition side. The Pines. This is where the mother came the most, was to the Pines. It's an area where big pine trees are standing. She came into other places too there, but the Pines were like the main apparition site. And it will come along with miraculous healing. Conchita, one of the seers, knows the exact date. She will announce the date 8 days before it takes place. Conchita currently lives in New Jersey. So Conchita is one of the seers, and I want to tell you, she is 71 years old. And she's supposed to tell 8 days before this permanent sign will happen. The illumination of consciousness will come about a year before this. Then she will announce 8 days before it happens that the permanent sign will come. That's how and why at Garabandal you have the chance to pilgrim there, to go there, to be healed. So everybody has an opportunity. Now about the permanent sign. The permanent sign as a testimony to Our Lady's presence and love at Garabandal. Both Akita and Medjugorje, which are other apparition side, have spoken of similar permanent signs. Conchita, so one of the seers, testified, "The Blessed Virgin advised me of a great miracle, saying God our Lord would perform it through her intercession, just as the chastisement will be very, very great in keeping with the needs of the world. The Blessed Virgin has told me the date of the miracle and what it will consist of. I'm supposed to announce it 8 days in advance so that people will come. The Pope will see it from wherever he is. The sick who are present at the miracle will be cured and sinners will be converted. It will coincide with an event in the church and with the feast of a saint who is a martyr of the Eucharist. It will take place on 8:30 on a Thursday evening. It will be visible not only to those in the village, but also to those in the surrounding mountains." It will be the greatest miracle Jesus has performed. There won't be the slightest doubt it comes from God and that it is for the good of mankind. There will be no doubt in the mind of anyone who sees this great miracle which God our Lord will perform through the intercession of Our Lady, and let us see if the world changes so that the chastisement can be averted. So the next thing is that it's going to be announced a great chastisement, and this I knew already from my grandma. This my grandma testified of already to me and told me already as a child that it would come. And I'll tell you just a little bit later. So there's going to be a great sign, and I did more research and what other prophets were telling about this, and it's going to be a sign similar to what as Moses has seen when he was led by God through the desert and the Red Sea was parted. So it's some kind of, maybe it's the fire light, the fire wall, we don't know. Like the fire shaft, we don't know, but it's going to be a permanent sign. And one of the seers said that you can take a picture, it will be seen, you can record it, you can film it, you can see it, but you can't touch it. So it will be seen, and people that are going to be there are going to be healed. And there's no doubt that this is coming from God or not. And it's going to stay there. This sign is permanent to the end of the world. This sign is going to stay as a witness and testimony that God is existing and God is real. So if you're ever needing and wanting a sign from God, it will be coming. But I hope you prepare before that, because the illumination of consciousness comes before that. And if you're curious about the illumination of consciousness and want to hear a little bit more about it, I'm going to actually put a link underneath this video of a man who already went through the illumination of consciousness. Yes, there's a few people in the world that have already experienced this, and he gives a testimony of it. So what he felt like, what he went through, and he was like the greatest sinner, he's calling himself, and so far away from God and the church, and he's giving his testimony how his life changed through the illumination of consciousness. So I'm going to put a link underneath so you can listen to him. It's really a powerful testimony. I'll advise to listen to it. And you can see that it's like really genuine. And it's going to be in English, but I know he gives a lot of talks in Spanish because he comes from South America. He comes from the Andes, so he comes from Colombia. So there we go. He comes from Colombia, and so he gives testimony there. And so this, I really truly advise you to see. And if you want to see more on the apparitions, like there's a movie on the apparitions of Garabandal. I also put a link underneath here, and in several languages, Spanish, English, German, Polish, I don't know, many more languages, you can actually see a movie about the apparitions at Garabandal. So I put a link onto it too. And I really want you to prepare, like it says that you should prepare for, before you go into the illumination of consciousness, you're supposed to prepare yourself, pray. I know that a lot of people don't believe in this, but the Catholic Church is really giving the true sacraments. So we have 2 baptisms. We have the baptism with water, and then we have the baptism with fire. And the Catholic Church has it because it's been passed on from one pope and bishop to the other, starting with Saint Peter. And he was the laying of the hands. You have that in scripture where people were being baptized, but they didn't receive the Holy Spirit yet. And then the apostles came, laid their hands on those people, and they received the Holy Spirit. So this is being passed on in the Catholic Church, and this is the second baptism. It's called the baptism with fire. Then we have the Holy Eucharist. So it's not as simple, guys. It's not a symbol. The Eucharist is, we're not only doing the Last Supper of Jesus as a symbol and remembrance, but actually the priest is having the power through Jesus Christ to change the bread into the flesh and the wine into the water. The blood of Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. So you're really having partaken of the flesh and the blood of Jesus Christ. You see, when Jesus was preaching about this in the Gospels, and he's saying you need to eat my flesh and drink my blood, the people were like, no, we're not. What is he talking about? We need to like drink his blood. And you know, a lot of them turned away. And this is what is happening again. People are turning away from the Catholic Church. They don't understand that there's a salvation here, that you not only take it symbolically, but you're taking actually the real thing, blood and flesh of Jesus Christ. And that means he dwells in you, just as scripture says. And you, as John the Baptist said, diminish and he must grow. So this is such a healing power. And then prayer is so important. Prayer. And I think also on this channel, I'm gonna have prayer videos where I will record the rosary prayer, teach you the rosary, and of course, leave comments, ask me questions if you have prejudices against the rosary prayer. Please put them down. I come from a background of Protestantism and also of non-denominational churches, charismatic churches, before I came to the Catholic Church, and you can watch my faith journey. I have a testimony of my faith journey. I have a video on it if you're interested on my journey, how I ended up here and with the Catholic Church and believing in all of this. Watch my faith journey. I tried to put a link underneath this video too. Hopefully I remember. Otherwise, please ask me these questions. So I will do an explanation video, and we need to prepare. We need to pray and prepare ourselves. We have sacraments as the confession, and I probably do a video about this too, because you need to know. And a lot of people think like, oh, I don't need to confess to anybody, a person. I do it directly with God. Yeah, well, God has put in the sacrament of confession. And as I say, it will go into too much length, and I will talk about this. This is really, really, really important, because if you go through purgatory and you have not confessed your sin and got the absolution, you will feel the sin. You will feel the burning of that sin. If you have gotten an absolution for that sin, then you will not feel the pain. There's a difference. So it's really, 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 really important to prepare yourself and to turn your life around. So what if we do not turn around towards God? Finally, the mother spoke to the children about the consequences mankind would bring upon itself if it did not turn from fear and hatred to trust and to love God and neighbor. On October 18th, 1961, the children placed in writing the message the mother gave them. We must make many sacrifices, do much penances. We must visit the Blessed Sacrament frequently, but first we must be good. And unless we do this, a punishment will befall us. The cup is already filling, and unless we change, a very great punishment will befall us. What is the purpose of the message about chastisement? The future is not irrevocable set. We can change our future yet. We can turn to God, and He's gonna change the future. It's not set in stone yet. That's why it's called prophecy, right? If we answer to the call of Our Lady personally, turn from sin and back to God, live deeper lives of prayer, especially the Rosary, and go out through authentic friendships to help others, we can change world events and save souls. 4 predictions about the future were given at Garabandal, so we're going to repeat them so you truly have them. Following the time of tribulation, there will be a worldwide warning in which everyone will see the state of their soul before God, the Illumination of Consciousness, it's called. We will see the damage caused by our sins and the good we have omitted to do. The warning will come when the tribulation will be at its worst and when the warning will be most needed. Within a year after the warning, a miracle will take place in Garabandal. It will be announced 8 days beforehand by one of the girls who knows the date. It can be seen and televised, and all the sick who will be present will be healed. A permanent visible sign will be left at the Garabandal, a sign for unbelievers. In at least one other apparition, Our Lady has promised the same. It's not the only message. It's not that this apparition is the only one that is talking about this. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more later on about a few saints who already talked about these prophecies. Now, if we still do not convert, a chastisement will befall the world. This was also predicted by Our Lady at Akita in Japan. Apparitions approved by the church. So in the apparition at the Lady of Akita in Japan, there was given a great message of the end times, the turmoil of the end times. You can Google it. End times prophecy of Akita, Japan, at the apparition. And there it is described what will happen in the end times. So after this time period that is given to us. And also I want you to know that after the Illumination of Consciousness, I heard in another prophecy, they will be given us 4 to 6 weeks to turn our life around, and Satan and the demons are going to be held back so that we can actually truly turn our lives around and have the opportunity. After 4 to 6 weeks, which is the door of mercy for us to change our lives, Satan will be released again. And guess what the media will say? I mean, just think about what the media will say about this event. It's a mass hallucination about, people are having had a mass hallucinations, and it's been caused by, and then they're gonna make up a cause. And they will know, we don't know what it is exactly, but mass hallucinations have happened. And, people are thinking they're really religious, but it's actually not. These kind of trials are gonna come, and people who have not used this time of mercy to turn their lives around, they will start doubting again. They will be like, well, maybe media's right. Maybe it wasn't anything. This is how the devil works. It will come and make you doubt. This is a great tragedy. So 2 saints of the last century have confirmed the apparitions, and to me they're really, really important. And by the way, the Pope that was living at that time, I think it was Pope Paul VI, also visited the seers and believed in it. And the other 2 saints, one is the world famous Mother Teresa. She became the godmother, of one of the children of one of the seers. She met them, and she had actually a friendship with them, and she believed them. And the other saint, if you don't know him, he's Padre Pio. If you don't know him, he's a stigmatist, a saint. He's done a lot of prophecies. He's also done a lot of prophecies about the end times, what is going to happen if people are not turning around. He also has prophecies. You can look it up, Padre Pio time prophecies. They're available on YouTube, on Google. What he has written about that, what he said, and I really advise you to look into it because he's given some great details. So he has the stigmata. That means he had the signs of the nails through his hands. And he was already medically examined, of course. This church doesn't acknowledge just anybody claiming they have, the crucifixion signs or anything, and it could be self-afflicted. So he's been undergoing intense psychological and medical investigations before he became a saint and approved. And he also prophesied and said, he actually sent a message to those seers at Garabandal saying he saw the same thing. So he confirmed the sights and seeings as well. And he also gave instructions before he died that one of his cloth that he was always covering his hands with were sent to the girls, and also his burial cloth that was put on his face as a gift was also given to them as a relic. So these really believed in the apparitions, and then I wrote down we have, talking about these warning signs, we have already St. Paul Pius IV, St. Pope Paul VI, St. Faustina Kowalska, Blessed Anna Maria Taiji, the servant of God, Maria Esperanza, Francis Michael Rodrigo, and Jenny Garcia, and Matthew Kelly. So these are just a few that we're talking about this Padre Pio as well, as I say. So the Garabandal is not the only time. Also other apparitions, Fatima, La Salette, and also Fatima, La Salette, and Akita were talking about this. So it's not being confirmed with other saints and other apparitions. But also I want to come back to the questions. Are we living in the end times? And this is also a confirmation of these messages are being true, and also to answer you the questions, do we live in the end times? So there's a message of the 3 popes that also were given in Garabandal, and there was a sign by the mother given that these messages are true. So listen to this. On June 3rd, 1963, the news about the death of Pope St. John the 23rd had just arrived in Garabandal. Conchita and her mother went towards the church to pray for the eternal repose of the pontiff. On the way, Conchita, one of the seers, heard interiorly the unmistakable voice of our mother, who told her, after this pope, there will be only 3 popes, and after that will be the end of times. Shortly thereafter, the Virgin clarified that while there would only be 3 popes, there would be another one, but he would govern the church for a very short time, and that was why she did not include him in the list. There are witnesses who affirm that they heard Conchita speaking on this precise matter during the same month of June of 1963. This means that in a single phrase, our mother had made 2 prophecies. There are only 3 popes left, after which come the end of times. Second, and as if to assure us that the first statement was certain, our mother provided a sign. There would be another pope, but this pontificate would be so short that he was not taken into account in our message, because he only reigned 33 days and he didn't change anything. He didn't make any changes. He didn't impact the church in any way. That's why he's not counted. We all know that pope whose pontificate was so short that he had no impact on the church destiny. It is John Paul I, was pope from August 26, 1978 until his death on September 28, 1978. The 33 days of the pontificate of Pope Luciani fits precisely into the exceptional prophecy, something that was impossible to foresee in 1963. So this is like the confirmation. And the 3 popes referred in Our Lady's message, therefore, were Saint Paul VI, John Paul II, and Benedict XVI. 3 popes. With the arrival of Pope Francis, the time period during which the end of times would arrive has begun. That doesn't mean he's going to be the last pope ever. It doesn't say that. It says that with Pope Francis, the end of times have begun. This time period of the end of times. So if you're in doubt, is this the end of time? It is the end of times. There's your confirmation. If you have still doubts, there was the confirmation and the sign of the prophecy given way before. So it doesn't mean that this is going to be the last pope. And I want to read to you what the Blessed Taiji, who's been speaking about the great chastisement, if people won't turn around, like in Garabandal it is said, that then the great chastisement will come. And as I say, look up the message of Akita, Japan, and also what Padre Pio says about this. This is really important. I will say a few words about this too. So the Blessed Taiji was a saint, was praised by Pope Benedict IX in her beatification on May 20th, 1920, as being an exemplary wife and mother amid poor and trying circumstances. She was frequently in ecstasy, worked miracles of healing, read hearts, foretold death, and saw visions on the coming of the future events. She foretold our first 2 world wars of the century. 18 years after her death, her body remained fresh and in a state of perfect preservation, as if it had just been buried the day before. The following are some of her visions of the future. God will send 2 punishments. One will be in the form of wars, revolution, and other evils. It shall originate on earth. The other will be sent from heaven. There shall come over the earth an intense darkness lasting 3 days and 3 nights. Nothing can be seen, and the air will be laden with pestilence, which will claim mainly, but not only the enemies of religion. It will be impossible to use any man-made lighting during this darkness except blessed candles. He who out of curiosity opens his window to look out or leaves his home will fall dead on the spot. During these 3 days, people should remain in their homes, pray the rosary, and beg God for mercy. My grandma was already foretelling me about the 3 days where you have to seal your windows, you have to stay inside, not looking outside. And Padre Pio has really detailed prophecies about this, and I just tell you briefly, but it's not all. So the 3 days of darkness are going to be preceded by a really dark night, an unusual dark and cold night. Then the 3 days come, and it's going to be like a fire raining from the sky. Anybody who's caught outside will die. And anybody who is close to God and dies through that, he's a martyr. He will die as a martyr and go straight to heaven. Anybody who is far away from God will be taken into hell by demons. And if you're out of curiosity, look out your window or step out of the door, you will die immediately. So you have to stay inside, and it will be dark, and destruction will be all over, but you're not allowed to look outside. Even if somebody knocks at your door, don't open. It's too late for them. Stay inside, pray the rosary, stay awake, alert, and pray, because great punishment is coming over the earth. And a lot of destruction will be happening. And actually, Padre Pio advises you to store food and water, and not only for those 3 days, but also when the 3 days have passed. It's going to be spring, but it's going to be time until things are going to grow again. And there's not going to be food, there's not going to be water for this period of time, for about 3 months. So if you don't have enough food and water, there's really going to be a problem. And we're going to be thrown back. There's not going to be electricity and nothing. And you have to have blessed candles in order to even make a light. Otherwise, you will sit in dead darkness. So Padre Pio also says, if you have cattle, you have to feed them. Give them enough food for 3 days and 3 nights. And God will take care of them and not kill them. He will protect him. But he's not going to protect the other people. And this is one of the greatest chastisements coming to earth. But it will not be the end. So let's read what's still to come. On this terrible occasion, so many of these wicked men, enemies of the church and of God, shall be killed with this divine scourge, that their corpses around Rome will be as numerous as the fishes which a recent inundation of the Tiber had carried into the city. All the enemies of the church, secret as well as known, will perish over the whole earth during this universal darkness, with the exception of some few whom God will soon convert. The air shall be infested by demons, who will appear under all sorts of hideous forms. After 3 days of darkness, St. Peter and St. Paul, having come down from heaven, will preach throughout the world and designate a new pope. A great light will flash from their bodies and settle upon the cardinal, the future pontiff. Then Christianity will spread throughout the world. Whole nations will join the church shortly before the reign of the Antichrist. I want you to notice the Antichrist is still to come afterwards. It says here, one more time, whole nations will join the church shortly before the reign of the Antichrist. The Antichrist will come after. These conversions will be amazing. Those who survive shall conduct themselves well. There shall be innumerable conversions of heretics who will return to the bosom of the church. All will note the edifying conduct of their lives as well as that of other Catholics. Russia, England, and China will come into the church. France will fall into a frightful anarchy. The French people shall have a desperate civil war in which old men themselves would take up arms. The political parties, having exhausted their blood and their rage, without being able to arrive at any satisfactory understanding, shall at the least extremity agree by common consent to have recourse to the Holy Seat. Then the Pope shall send France a special legate, in order that he may examine the state of affairs and the disposition of the people. In consequence of the information received, His Holiness himself shall nominate a most Christian king for the government of France. Religion shall be persecuted afterwards again, and priest massacred. Churches shall be closed, but only for a short time. The Holy Fathers shall be obliged to leave Rome. Those are the times of the Antichrist. So I truly hope that you will use the links that I will put underneath the video and truly meditate and think over these things that are going to come in our lifetime. Conchita, one of the seers, again, she lives in New York. She is 71 years old now, and I don't think she's going to live another 100 years. So it is more than likely happening in our generation, our lifetime, and the end of times have begun with the beginning of the pontiff of Pope Francis. So please, in the name of God, turn your life towards God. Start praying. Look into the sacraments that your church is offering. Send me questions if you have any. And I am praying for you. God bless you.